In this video, we're going to give an explanation of the system tabs on the SA8 DSP amplifier. Once you've logged into your SA8 DSP amplifier, there's a number of features that are available in the new DSP platform. The main page brings you to your configuration tabs, which we have audio system, home, inputs, channels, speakers, speaker testing, the network, and also system information. This is the main page right here. If you click on the Wisdom logo up in the top left, that will take you to the website. You can also call, also email to get more information from Wisdom Audio. On the top up here, it tells you a little bit about the amplifier, along with the firmware update that it has in it, so you can always know that you have the latest firmware. Right below here, which is a brand new feature this year on the new amplifiers, is mains power recovery. If you lose power in your system, you now have an option of what you want the amplifier to do once it shuts off from the power outage. You can either have it stay off, you can have it turn itself back on, or you can have it return to the last state that it was in before the power went out. System gain, this allows you to increase or decrease the overall gain of the amplifier. That's a global setting, so it will increase all outputs or decrease all outputs by the same amount. And then down here, this is a system log, which is really just for engineering purposes, just to tell our engineers if there is an issue, they can actually look right at this and see everything that's happened to the amplifier and what you've been doing. Second tab is our home tab. This one shows our inputs. We have 8 analog inputs, and then we also have 8 Dante inputs, which Dante we will talk about a little bit later. The 16 inputs on the amplifier can be matrixed to any of the outputs and can be combined. So you could have 4 analog inputs, and you could also have 4 Dante inputs and configure them, for whatever outputs you want to do. If it's red up here, basically indicates outputs with unassigned input channels. So we haven't done anything to the amplifier yet. The next tab is our input tab. So here you can see we've got 8 analog inputs, and then 9 through 16 are the Dante inputs. If you click over here, there's a little drop-down arrow, and you can choose what you want those inputs to be. So if you want number 1 to be your left channel in, number 2 to be your right channel in, you can do that. You could also change the name. If you wanted to call it, LS4 right, you could do that as well. Same thing with the Dante inputs. Currently they're just labeled as Dante, but again, you can change those names to whatever you want them to be. So if you want that to be your left channel, then you could do that. Again, these menus will pop up, so it's very, very simple to do. If you want to eliminate a channel that you're not using, or you want to just get it out of the system so you don't have to look at it, you can just hit the negative sign right here, and just like that, it has disappeared. So now 1 through 8 are our analog channels, and 11 through 16 would be our Dante channels. You can also add those channels back in just by hitting the plus button, and it will give you all of your channels right here. You can again tell it, what those channels are and what you're going to use them for. So it's very, very, very flexible. So you can go back to Dante. You can tell it, to be anything that you want it to be, which is really nice. Next page is our channels page. This is where we start assigning everything and what they are. I can just take an import right here, and I can input in all of my channels that I assigned on the other page, whether they're analog or whether they're a Dante. Again, we're going to go in depth on each of these in the setup and configuration, but this is where those come in. These are the EQ filters that you can apply, delays, where the signal's coming from, what channels you're using for level, whether or not it's a subwoofer. So it's very versatile, very similar to the old system controller, the SC2 and the SC3. Next tab is our speaker tab. So here is where we're going to add in our channels, or our speakers, I should say. So here I could say this is my left speaker, and it is a P38, and it is a in-wall version. So once I select those things, you can see I'm using the left channel in, and then I'm going to use output number 1 for the low frequencies and output number 2 for the high frequencies. As you can see, it automatically inverts the high frequency section of the P38. In my Advanced Controls tab, this is where you can see the PEQs that have been applied. You can also see that these are locked out. Really, all of the work that you do for setting up the system is going to be back in your Channels tab. These EQs right here, these are all available without any passwords to get into those. So that's our speaker tab. The next tab is our speaker testing tab, which is again a very robust. We have an alignment and polarity pulse. So this will send out a positive polarity pulse that you can check with your Cricket polarity tester to make sure that everything is in phase as it should be, or out of phase if that's what it's designed to be. Our pink noise is full broadband pink noise. It is not chopped off on the top or the bottom, so it's very, very accurate. Same thing with our white noise. And then finally we have a sine wave generator. And here what's cool about this is, say you want to start it at 30 hertz to find out if you got some noise or woofer noise or rattles in the system. Then you can just start ramping it right up, and it'll just go right through the frequencies without, you don't have to keep punching in a different frequency and hitting enter. If you need more output or less output, you can turn this up or down, based on how loud you want the system to be playing some of those test tones. We'll leave that right there. And down here, since I've only really got one speaker assigned, I can tell it which one I want to have it do the pink noise or sine wave through, or pulses through, or I can enable all of them if I've got a bunch of speakers on there. Again, we'll have another video that really talks more in depth about setting all this stuff up and test signals. The next tab is our network tab, which we talked about in a previous video. This allows you to go in and see all the information about your unit. You can also put in information if you're going to use a static IP with a control system. You can do that in here. If you've got multiple SA8 DSPs, this is where you could name each one of them. So I could have an SA8 DSP number 1, and then as you see right here, it changes the DNS name automatically as long as I save that. Finally, on our last tab is our Systems tab, and this is where you can import your configuration file if you've saved it from another time or setup. If you want to export your file, you would just click on this right here, save link as, and then you can load it into your, just save it on your desktop, save it in a folder. That way if there's ever anything that ever happened and you need to recall that and reapply the settings, you can just simply import them back in again. Also, you've got the blink front panel, which is also really nice, so that if you've got 6 of these in a rack and you want to know which one you're working on, you can blink the front panel by pushing that little button right there, and then the panel will make some nice little blue light ups. And then finally is your firmware update, and this allows us to continually update the processors that are built into the SA8 DSP. They will be coming on a regular basis early on, so watch out for any firmware updates. And that is basically all of our tabs on the SA8 DSP amplifier. Thank you. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.